I wanted to demonstrate the new phone hack for you just so that you have a better grasp on how to properly use it for your movies. So here's the phone hack, and you can basically add the phone by, hitting the menu and clicking add phone. And if you want the black one, the best way to do it is to go into object mode and then use a design tool to change it into the black handset. So as you can see, I've completely changed the telephone hack with all different sort of custom, poses, and most of them I've just created because I needed to use them for the series. So eventually I'll add more and more generic ones too for everybody else to use. So I'm gonna start with the arms only one, and what that does is pose one hand by the phone. This is pretty much good for moving the sim around, like having them walk or sit down or transition to, from one place to another. In general, you don't want to use this for with the talking animations because their head moves around too much, their other arms move around too much, the whole body moves around too much, and it might look unnatural with the head running right into the phone or the body pose not lining up correctly with the phone pose. And you can see an example of why I would avoid using this pose with the talking animations, with the way that her head turns around and runs right into the phone. So let me demonstrate how to use this. We'll pick the sit floor legs bent option and the breathe start. And this one's good for showing the sim listening to a conversation. As you can see, this animation has very subtle breathing animation, so it looks really natural and it doesn't look like they're spazzing like when the sims usually breathe. So let's go ahead and stop that. You can see there's one stop button for all those motions. So I made it a little bit easier to maneuver the menu. And let's go ahead and pick the talker animation. This one obviously is for the person talking on the phone. And what I did to make it a little bit more natural is to have them, move their head a little bit, move their shoulders a little bit. And you can see there's some subtle movement, but, not overdone like when the Sims usually talk. I was really going for something natural. So basically, with this animation in place, you can use any sort of overlay animation with this. You can use sitting, standing, whatever animations are available on those two overlay hacks, and it won't be affected by whether they're standing or sitting. My favorite talk string is the talk B front animation, or talk A front, I guess, but talk B has the longest string and it's the easiest to lip sync with. As you can see, if you use only the Talkbee front, it looks really stupid. They're overly animated and their eyelids go all wonky and doesn't look natural at all. You could use the neutral face overlay with this, but the problem with that is they do this weird blinking thing. It's called, I've heard people call it zombie eyes, and that's just a natural way that it's animated in the game by the game makers. So I don't like using that. So what I like using instead is the chair talk breathe start animation. And what that does is neutralize without any of the weird blinking or anything. And here you can see the sample of how different it looks once you use that. What I've also discovered is that if you do the chair talk breathe twice, it will even take even more of the edge off and make them look even less animated. So it's even more natural looking. So I like using it twice. And here's an example of what it looks like with two chair talk breathing over it and then the actual talking animation. If you want to use certain emotions, like let's say, for example, the sad one, you could use the face overlays on my modeling hack to do that. So here we can select, let's go ahead and stop the sitting breathe. Here we can select the face overlay sad animation. And here's an example of doing the sad overlay with the talk B front. And then once you add the chair talk breathe over that, then it looks a lot more natural. If you use the chair talk breathe twice with this face overlay, it might not look good because the lip movements might be too slight. So I would suggest just using one chair talk breathe with it. Be careful when choosing which animations you use with this. You can pretty much use anything, but you really have to test them out. Like in this example, you can see that the lips move too quickly, so it doesn't look very natural. So you really do have to try out all the animations before you decide on which one you're going to use. One more thing I wanted to note is that when I made these animations, I had the phone hugging the ear, right next to the ear, like, real people talk. But I didn't realize till I started filming with it that if there's a hairstyle where the hair comes down over the ear, it sort of bleeds through the hair. So I do need to fix all of them so that they sit a little bit further from the head, so it's not right up against the ear. So I do have to fix that sooner or later. So I wanted to demonstrate the talk overlay hack. I completely reorganized it and added a bunch of custom animations. If you look at this menu, all the ones with the stars, the asterisks, are all custom animations, and they're ones that I made specifically because I needed them for whatever scene I had for A&D. So let's go ahead and test one out. Here is the sad discussion. Let's do talker front. I'm going to go ahead and select sitting breathe twice because, like I said, it takes the edge off. But if you do it a third time, it will snap the sim completely out of its position. So make sure only to do it twice. Let's try listen be front this time. And here you can see how natural his talking animations look. So basically whatever principles that I mentioned with the telephone hack applies the same thing to the overlay hack. A real common scene that we have in our movies is one where they're sitting at a dining table and talking. So let's go ahead and select Chair Talk A Front just to demonstrate. And you'll notice that not only their facial expressions look pretty horrid and overly animated, their arms are swinging way too much. So to take the edge off, again, I'm going to select Sitting Breathe Start. And as you notice, the facial animations look much better and their arms look much better, but you have the problem with their hands bleeding through the table. And so you would only be able to film this on a very close-up shot, shoulders and above. So we're going to go ahead and select Sitting Breathe Start one more time. As I said before, it works really well to use it twice. And as you can see, their facial expressions are much better, their arms movement much more minimized, but still the hands are bleeding through the table. So what I created was a custom pose. It looks really funny if you're using it by itself, where the arms are completely straight and down, and it's under dialogue and talk overlay. And as you can see, it completely eliminates the hands bleeding through the table, so you can shoot from a little further away. Here I'm going to demonstrate how to combine my regular talk overlay hack with my personal talk overlay hack. So let's say you have an argument scene. I'm going to go ahead and select Argue Talker, and I've had enough, I'm leaving. And of course, true to sim fashion, it is way too animated. The facial expressions are overly exaggerated, and it looks like they're just having a complete spaz attack. So I'm going to go ahead and select Standing Breathe, arm side, and immediately the body movement's way better, much more minimized. Just like the Chair Talk Breathe, I'm going to go ahead and select the Standing Breathe, arm side one more time to minimize it further. You could either do Standing Breathe or Standing Pose, it doesn't matter. So the arm movements are a lot better, not as exaggerated. But if you take a close-up look at the face, you can see that this doesn't affect the face at all, and it just looks like she's really, really pissed. So to make this look a little more realistic, let's go ahead and use the face overlays from my modeling hack. I'm going to go ahead and select Face Overlay, Neutral, and Start. And look at the big difference it makes on her facial expressions. It looks a lot more realistic now. And the zombie eye thing doesn't seem to affect certain animations very much. If you're using a combination of animations to mix them up together, then you can't use sitting animations, obviously, because then they'll kind of mix together and make them look sort of funny. But if you wanted to just have the mouth and head movements only, then you would go ahead and use the standing high animations. So from my overlay hack, let's go ahead and select the standing high arm side animation. And my favorite, Chair Talk, Talk Be Front. And then of course, to minimize that, let's go ahead and do Chair Talk Sitting Breathe Start twice. And as you can see, they're just standing there without moving their body and just talking, and it looks pretty natural. I don't know about you, but I absolutely hate the way the Sims breathe naturally. I don't know why their whole body just moves front and back, so I do have to get around to creating a regular standing breathe animation one of these days. With all these custom animations that I've made for the talk overlay hack, You just have to make sure that your grids are on, not off, meaning they snap to the grid, not off. Use your move objects on and position them next to each other, however they look on the animation. And for example, let's do this, the bed lay side one, just hit female, hit male, and there you go.